Dive into fun and fitness with our water fitness classes starting back up. Whether you're looking to make a splash or just get moving, we've got something for everyone. Spring is the perfect time to jump into a healthier lifestyle, and the CCYMCA is here to help. Join us today and make a splash this season.
Pastor Brian Moore here from Locust Grove Church near Assumption. We are alive and so worth the drive. Find directions to our church and watch our video podcast by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Gear up for spring at the Jenner Ag Lawn and Garden Expo, April 10th from 3 to 7 p.m. at their Taylorville store. Special event pricing and 0% financing on select models. Register for Clint Black tickets. Find out more by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
If you're 40 and over, you'll recognize these artists by their first names. Frank, Dean, Sammy, Andy, Nat, Diana, Michael. Well, here's the big news. You can now hear Central Illinois' largest music library with over 3,500 songs on air and online at 965thechill.com. Tune in on the FM dial in Christian County and on your computer or smartphone. Hear these great artists and many more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on 965thechill.com.
Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome into WTIM and your information station. We're just getting our start to the morning show here for Monday, March 24th. Brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. My name is Grayson Bauman, and joining me in this conversation today is Dr. Kent Redfield. He is Professor Emeritus with the University of Illinois Springfield. Kent, how are you this morning, sir?
Well, doing just fine. Sunny day. We'll take as many of those as we can get. So,
absolutely, especially as we start to make our way into spring now, and it's nice to see the sun. And I know we're going to get a lot of rain moving forward, so let's just be grateful for some sun here today. I'm right there with you. Well, Kent, it's great to be able to talk to you for the first time here on the morning show, at least between me and yourself. Leroy has taken over and done quite a few of those with you. And so I'm glad to get to talk to you today about some of those, I guess we'll call them hot button issues, some of those that people are sparking a little controversy around as well. And we want to start with homeschooling regulation. This one's been a big topic here in Taylorville and within our station and also out there as well. Kent, what are you making of the homeschooling regulation that is wanting to be taking place?
okay, well, there's a bill that was introduced that is, basically the concept is you want to, the people that are promoting the bill want to have people who are homeschooling to, essentially register with school district, regional superintendent of schools, some type of, setting up some type of contact so that we know, the state knows how many people are homeschooling, how many children are out there, that, just a general kind of profile information. And that seems like, pretty straightforward, but in fact, Illinois is probably one of, if not the least, regulated homeschool environments in the country. The people that are supportive of homeschools, the parents, there's a statewide organization, they want to protect the idea that the parental rights, the ability of them to put their children in a homeschooling situation rather than have them attend public school or private school. And so we had a big rally in Springfield a couple of weeks ago, and that's kind of an annual affair. They come down to the lobbying day. There's a lot of, big crowd. They go out and talk to individual legislators, and basically they're drumming up, support for homeschooling. But in this particular session, there is a bill. There's a kind of a registration bill that has got out of the House committee. Mostly Democrats voted for it. Mostly Republicans voted against it. But it certainly is an issue crosses party lines, and so that's kind of where we're at. And there are attempts to see whether or not they can find some language that would be acceptable to both sides. It's a clash of really, important values. You've got parents that want parental rights, and they feel like they want to be able to, for whatever reason, to put their children in a home environment rather than in public schools. And then you have, the state of Illinois has an interest, requirement in the Constitution, to be providing an education and also to providing for the welfare of children. And so it gets to be very difficult to kind of, one side feels like we're just kind of doing the minimum. The other side says, this is really just the first step. And we're afraid that there are going to be regulations on curriculum and testing and assessments and all kinds of things. And so, the general laws in Illinois, truancy, child welfare, I mean, they apply to everyone, regardless of, whether you're homeschooling or sending your child to a private school or to the public school. So, this clash of values makes it very, very difficult to get compromise, which is what the legislature likes. It likes to ratify agreements. It doesn't like to pick sides. And so it's unclear we're going to get language this time around. But this is farther than we've advanced bills in the past. This certainly has come up before. And the Democrats have such a huge majority in both chambers that, they could pass a bill with 60 votes in the House and allow 17 of their members, Democrats, for whatever reason, just to not vote on the bill. And because, people know that the homeschool community, or, they're very engaged, they vote, and so, there are certainly ways you might finesse this, but I don't, that's not a good resolution. You need to figure out if you can find some common grounds. And we should emphasize again, it's a long time. We got a couple of months left in session, 69 days, something like that. And, so there's, what is going to be in the bill, if it does come up for the House, may be very different from what came out of committee.
Sure.
And it's a long process.
Yeah, and making sure that both sides have some common ground there, the big topic and the big key to that, as you mentioned. But something that you had also mentioned that stuck out to me was that Illinois, out of the nation, has one of the least regulated homeschool, we'll call them programs, or the least regulation surrounding homeschooling. So just an interesting piece there. And so right now that's just getting its start, but is becoming more of a topic of conversation. And I want to make sure that we have time for some other topics of conversation for us today, because this one important as well. The potential for federal cuts in Medicaid funding and in education funding. Dick Durbin was just in Taylorville at Taylorville Memorial Hospital and spoke to members of the news about this and about the potential for Medicaid cuts. What do you see? What are you hearing? And what can you tell us about the potential for those cuts if they are to happen?
Well, what you have are Medicaid expansions that came in under COVID that expanded the scope of federal Medicaid and broadened the safety net when there was so much going on during COVID. And these are grants that have a 90% federal match. The state puts up about 10%. It allows you to cover a broader, a broader spectrum of people by expanding the eligibility for Medicaid, which is, this is not Medicare for seniors. Medicaid is need-based health care, generally for poor people, at low income is where it's focused. And so the desire to cut back, to make cuts at the federal level, to get rid of waste and fraud, but also free up money for tax cuts that President Trump would like to enact. There's a lot of pressure, and one person's, once you hear, well, we're not going to cut Medicaid, we're just going to cut waste and fraud, but that depends on what your definitions are. So when we pass the state budget, we assume a certain amount of federal money, and now we're in a posture where these issues at the federal level may not get resolved before we pass a budget the 1st of June, and if we have to. The potential is there is to come back and have to come back in the middle of the year and, cut the state budget. And that is, that's a very painful, thing to do. It's very difficult to do. Everybody kind of assumes once we get the budget going, then, we can kind of plan around that. And so there's a lot of concern. And the same thing for education funding. Again, not a 10% of public, funding for public schools is, might be federal dollars, but the really important one here is we're heavily reliant on federal grants for special education. And so, is there going to be enough money? Is it going to be shifted to a different different federal agency? So there's budgets are always kind of fragile, and you're just, sometimes you get more revenue or less revenue than you estimate. But this is just particularly difficult year to be, putting a budget together because of the uncertainty in the federal funding. And we're, some of this may just be a shot in the dark as you try to make your best estimates, and then, nobody wants to come back in the fall and start revising budgets down when, people that are, out with the programs think that they're planning for their year, and suddenly the state is in a serious budget crisis. The governor has, there was an expansion last year for Medicaid funding involving migrants that, depending on how you look at the numbers, 300, 600 million. Governor just, he wants to cut that right off the top because it's such a tight budget year. But sure. That could be instead of being the last step, that could be the first step, unfortunately.
And we'll have to just kind of find out in terms of, the potential abolishment. I know that is being called for the Department of Education and also at the federal level for Medicaid funding is just going to have to kind of be I hate to say it, but a wait and see type of deal and just find out what really does take place. So we are speaking with Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science with the University of Illinois Springfield. So far, we've talked about homeschooling regulation and what that might look like for the state and also the federal cuts that could be potentially coming to Medicaid funding as well as education funding. We'll be back around to talk more about some of these issues and things that are being seen in the political space. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
Here's President Bill from Illinois Paving.
Attention business owners and property managers. Has winter damaged your parking lot? Are you tired of wasting money on a cheap fix that never lasts? Call Cousin Bill at Illinois Paving. We will answer the phone, show up for the estimate, execute the work. We provide asphalt patching, hot crack fill, polymerized dual seal coat, new asphalt install, multiple layered chip seal. Call today and get on the schedule to get your lot fixed right. ILPaving.com.
Did you know that March is National Save Your Vision Month? Dr. Deborah Smothers-Champley and Dr. Max Craigs believes that being proactive is key. Here are some key reminders straight from the experts on how to keep your eyes in good shape. Limit your screen time to alleviate eye strain. Always wear protective eyewear when engaging in sports or handiwork to protect from any hazards. And last but not least, make sure to schedule your regular eye appointment because regular checkups are important. Call today to schedule your appointment. Advanced Eye Care in Taylorville. Modern eye care, old-fashioned caring.
WTIM, your information station, will be traveling to the Shelbyville Police Station during March, broadcasting our morning show live. It's a way to say thank you to the courageous men and women that serve our local communities to keep us safe and protected. Whatever your emergency, they're always there for you and your families as they put their lives on the line each and every day. Be listening throughout March for these live broadcasts from the Shelbyville Police Station as our WTIM morning show goes on the road. Brought to you by these sponsors. Dial Demolition Services, located at 1015 East 1700 North Road in Tower Hill, wants to give a big thank you to the police department. We appreciate all you do. And Graphic Packaging International, located at 500 Daisy Drive in Shelbyville. Thank you to the police department for being there for us when we need you.
No taxes. No tax on Max Life mattresses. No tax on Arctic Breeze mattresses. No tax on all Bemco mattress sets. All month long, Just Beds will pay your sales tax on the entire Bemco product line in the store, even sale items. That Bemco mattress set you want? No tax. Max Life, Chatham & Wells, Arctic Breeze, or the new copper mattress. No tax. All Bemco, all month, no tax. As always, free delivery, setup, and haul away. See the Yawn Exterminators at Just Beds on Montvale in Springfield.
Just Beds.
Central Illinois Truck Service is growing thanks to you. Owner Perry Stantha here. Our new service manager, Jeremy Peters, and our certified technicians will keep your semi-truck engine rolling. Click my icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best health for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Taylorville is accepting new patients. Click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
WTIM.
You're listening to WTIM, your information station, and our morning show brought to you by People's Bank and Trust and Landmark of Taylorville. My name is Grayson Bauman, and joining me in this segment is Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science with the University of Illinois Springfield. And we've been talking about potential cuts to Medicaid and as well as education funding and homeschooling regulations and the potential for those. But we want to turn the page and talk a little bit about something that I had not heard about, and that is some public, some private universities in Illinois are currently under federal investigations over DEI programs and potential failures to protect Jewish students from discrimination. This was a topic, especially last year. But Kent, what can you tell me about this, and what do you know about it at this point now?
Well, we did have a very important Supreme Court decision that, essentially said that affirmative action in admissions to universities is discriminatory and therefore unconstitutional. And so, there was a clear decision. Essentially, the common phrase would be affirmative action. You can't wait admissions process on the basis of considerations of race because that disadvantages other groups that are applying to the university. And then we had a lot of disturbances, pro-Palestinian demonstrations after the Hamas attack on Israel and Israel's response in Gaza. But what you have here is, through an executive order and then actions of the Justice Department and the Department of Education, you have identified a group of universities, and you have investigations involving both whether or not you're providing protection for Jewish students in terms of anti-Semitism, and then whether or not this general idea of not having any kind of race or gender based, favoritism in admissions, whether you can kind of broaden that to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then go after, investigate universities to see whether or not, they're creating something like a woman's center. Does that, trying to provide that kind of service to that particular a part of the student body, is that somehow exclusionary? And so you just got, a lot of uncertainty going on, but you've got the University of Columbia got they were investigated, and there was an $800 million cut in various federal programs threatened if they didn't enter a consent agreement. So sometimes you get investigations and lawsuits back. Sometimes you get compliance. But this is another one of those, you're going to have to wait and see how all of this turns out. But it definitely is on the radar screen and not going away.
And so that is a great place to stop there, Kent. And thank you so much for joining me here on the morning show today to talk a little bit about some of those potential cuts in funding, homeschooling regulation, and also the difference right now going on between affirmative action, DEI, and how things are inclusionary or inclusive in that regard. So this has been Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science with the University of Illinois Springfield, here on the WTIM Morning Show. More to come on WTIM, your information station.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville.